Minister. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Is shale gas then the answer to our looming energy crisis?
No, it's not. And when David Cameron suggests that it's going to create 74,000 jobs, which he's relying on an Institute of Directors report for that, he neglects to mention that just a month or so ago, AMEC, who carried out a very detailed strategic environmental assessment for the government, for the government department, said actually it would be between 16,000 and 32,000 jobs. And when he refers to North America, I'm afraid a simplistic sort of extrapolation of the US experience of the UK is unlikely to occur. So it's not the answer to all our energy problems. And one of the frustrations with this debate is that it's either flagged up as being the silver bullet or it's the worst thing that could ever happen. The reality is we use a considerable amount of gas, both for electricity generation, also for heating, and people don't often talk about heating, but 80% of the heating in the UK is gas. So when we import a lot of gas, if there's an opportunity to use indigenous UK gas supplies instead of importing it from Qatar and through other places, then that isn't something we should rule out. But it needs to be done carefully, it needs to be done sensitively, and it needs to be done with the right regulation and comprehensive monitoring. And it also needs to be done in the context of our longer-term energy goals, which is entirely about decarbonisation and making sure that we have a much more sustainable mix, and gas being an appropriate part of that, but not as shale gas as the silver bullet to solve all our energy problems, because it isn't.
Well, there have been accusations that the government are effectively bribing councils to get shale gas through and approved across the country. The councils, though, say they want more. Should they get more of the profits, potentially?
Well, I think what was outlined today is an interesting element of this. This is the second different development in terms of community benefits. My view on this is that community benefits for any energy infrastructure, actually, whether it's renewables, nuclear, potentially unconventional gas or any other, that the people who live in those communities and have the disruption should be recompensed for it. But more fundamental than that is that all of the people in that community and more widely need to be sure that the processes that are happening are robustly regulated, they're comprehensively monitored, and they're safe. And you won't get that, and that higher public acceptability test that we've heard about and reflected in some of the protests and some of the concerns people have is not going to be achieved until you get those things right. And it's not going to be achieved when people exaggerate the contribution that shale gas can make. It could make a contribution. It could stop us having to import as much gas as we currently import, but it isn't the silver bullet. And I'm afraid sometimes this debate gets so polarised that we end up in a sort of shouting match between the two extremes without actually considering all of these factors more comprehensively.
I think we've got through the last 15 minutes or so without shouting, but thank you very much for talking to us. Tom Greatrick, who is the Shadow Energy Minister. It's 1:19.